The courtroom was silent as the judge leaned forward. "Mr. Daniels, you wore a badge and betrayed the law. Before we begin today's story, please let us know where you are viewing from. Please remember to subscribe if you like this video. 12 years in federal prison." Gasps echoed through the chamber. His wife, clutching her pearls, began to cry before the judge spoke again. "Julie Daniels, 7 years." The gavel slammed down like a death knell, and the secret they'd spent a decade hiding came crashing into the open. He was the cop everyone admired. Officer Matthew Daniels, clean-cut, strong-jawed, and always the first one on the scene. For over a decade, he served his community in Arlington Heights like a hero out of a movie, saving kittens, stopping robbers, mentoring teens. Behind that badge, though, hid a man knee-deep in secrets darker than anyone could have imagined. And standing right beside him, smiling through neighborhood barbecues and PTA meetings, was his elegant wife Julie, every bit the picture of perfection. But behind closed doors, the Daniels household wasn't about justice or community. It was about money. Lots of it. And getting it by any means necessary. The scheme began small. A slight tweak in the numbers here, a white lie on a tax return there. At first, it was about catching up on bills, or so they told themselves. But temptation is a slow poison, and by year 3, Matthew was more criminal than cop. He had access to confidential databases, inside knowledge of financial crimes, and that's exactly what he used. While working mortgage fraud investigations during the day, he was committing them at night. Julie, once a simple real estate agent, learned quickly from her husband. They crafted fake W-2s for clients who didn't exist, set up shell companies, filed false tax returns to inflate incomes and qualify buyers for loans that were never meant to be repaid. At first, they flew under the radar. Banks approved mortgages based on doctored paperwork. The IRS missed the red flags in the ocean of returns. The Daniels were clever, too clever. They used third-party names, shuffled money through 5 different states, and even filed bankruptcy on behalf of fake buyers. Between 2012 and 2019, they stole nearly $3.8 million. The money was laundered into luxury cars, vacations in Maui, designer clothes, and private school tuition for their 2 children, who had no idea mom and dad were crooks. They weren't just living a lie. They were swimming in it. But greed makes people sloppy. In 2020, a young IRS analyst flagged an odd cluster of mortgage applications tied to similar addresses. One of those names was traced to a dead man in Arizona. Another to a woman serving time in Nevada. Alarm bells rang. A joint task force between the FBI, IRS, and Arlington Heights PD was formed. Ironically, the same precinct where Matthew worked. Over the next 2 years, agents played a quiet game of cat and mouse, assembling the puzzle. They wiretapped phones, planted moles, and followed the money trail like bloodstains on white carpet. What they found shocked even seasoned investigators. Officer Daniels had used his law enforcement login credentials to pull personal data of deceased veterans and turn them into buyers on paper. Julie had fraudulently notarized over 70 documents herself. The tipping point came when one of the Daniels shell companies, Greenlight Housing Solutions, was audited. A mid-level compliance officer flagged a suspicious $250,000 consulting fee paid to a company that didn't exist. That same officer found the signature of Janet Lee, a name belonging to a woman buried in Kansas. The house of cards began to shake. One evening in 2022, while Matthew was grilling burgers in his backyard, he noticed 2 black SUVs creeping down the street. He turned to Julie, whispered, "They found us," and bolted inside. But it was too late. The FBI, clad in tactical gear, moved in like a storm. Neighbors watched in horror as Matthew was cuffed in his driveway, face pressed into the concrete. Julie screamed for her children, who were sobbing in the hallway. That was the last time the Daniels saw their home. At trial, the evidence was overwhelming. Prosecutors presented over 300 falsified documents, traced dozens of wire transfers, and introduced surveillance footage of Julie withdrawing $40,000 in cash while wearing sunglasses and a hat. The courtroom listened in silence as wiretapped calls were played, Matthew bragging about outsmarting the feds, Julie joking about retiring in the Bahamas. The jury didn't laugh. It took them just 5 hours to convict them both on 22 counts of wire fraud, tax fraud, and conspiracy to commit bank fraud. But what broke everyone's hearts wasn't just the crimes. It was how far the Daniels had fallen. Fellow officers testified in disbelief. Neighbors wept on the stand. Even the judge paused before sentencing, visibly shaken. "You were supposed to be the people who protected us," he said. "Instead, you stole from the very system you swore to defend." In the days that followed, reporters camped outside the courthouse. The Daniels' home was foreclosed. Their children went to live with relatives out of state. Matthew was sent to FCI Oakdale, Louisiana. Julie went to a federal facility in Illinois. In one final twist, it was revealed that Matthew had also blackmailed a subordinate into accessing sealed files to cover his tracks, earning him 2 more years behind bars. As for the community, they were left picking up the pieces. The Daniels weren't just a scandal. They were a betrayal. A wound that would take years to heal. But their story became a case study, a reminder that sometimes the wolves wear badges. And sometimes the greatest heists don't happen with ski masks and guns, but with notary stamps, fake W-2s, and people you thought you could trust. If this story shocked you, it's only the beginning. More true stories of betrayal, deception, and justice are waiting. Subscribe now and turn on notifications, because the next twist could be the one you never see.